Alright guys, today we got the S23 Plus versus the S24 Plus. Is this worth the upgrade here? I've been really curious about the cameras and overall the performance here. And also there is an extended software lifespan as well too, because most people were telling me that. But we have to see, guys. I mean, both phones are super similar. That's why I said I gotta literally tell you guys which model it is, because they both look identical, right? I had to get this in another color for sure. But let's start off with the price. The S24 Plus is a pretty decent phone in the used refurbished marketplace. You don't have to spend $1,000. You can get it for around $667. If you go on eBay, sometimes they have deals like the one I have here. This one was $575 and it was Verizon unlocked, so you can put it on any carrier, which I thought was an extremely solid deal here. But the S23 Plus is also going for, I think, a pretty solid price considering how similar it is. In the used refurbished marketplace, you can find it for around $500 for an unlocked version. Let's start off with the specs here. So this is pretty interesting. We have the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 on here. We have 256 gigs of internal storage, and then we have 8 gigs of RAM on the S23 Plus. And then for the S24 Plus, you can see we have a higher score with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 processor here. We also have 256 gigs and 12 gigs of RAM. So we have a lot more RAM on this base model. And of course, you'll be able to keep applications in the background a lot more on the S24 Plus. As far as speed, we saw that, score difference here. And if we go to 3D Mark here, we can look at the Steel Nomad Lite test. You can see we do get a bump up in FPS and overall score. Let's look at the battery. So we drained. So what's interesting is that we didn't lose a percent on the S23 Plus, but we did lose a percent on the S24. We started off at 32 to 34. This one started off much cooler at 25 to 30. And obviously we got a higher FPS here. So overall, it's a decent upgrade, but not really like a real upgrade in the real world here. But overall, the performance has been pretty much spot on. It's been extremely similar. So I wouldn't necessarily say that, the S24 is really noticeably faster, because it's not. Animations and everything are still really smooth on both of these phones here. You can see they're both loading up pretty much the same here. Google Earth. Yeah, so it looks like the S24 Plus is just going to be a hair faster, but it's not going to be anything crazy noticeable. So also one thing to notice about the software is that you will get 7 years of major OS updates, which is, I think, a big deal because it makes the phone last a lot longer. So if you buy it, you really can get all the latest software features for, years and years. So this one only got the 4-year pledge though, unfortunately. But yeah, as you guys can see, not a big speed difference here. As far as the gaming performance goes, I haven't noticed too much of a difference here with overall performance here. I'm not an extreme gamer or anything, but the settings are exactly the same in pretty much all the games I play with. Call of Duty, PUBG here, playing emulators, Grand Theft Auto on here. So the gaming experience is unchanged for the most part. We still get excellent settings on the S23 Plus as well too. So as far as your gaming performance, they both feel exactly the same, guys. So none of these phones are heating up or anything like that. I don't have the Exynos models or anything like that, so I can't really speak for those. But this feels, pretty much the same, guys. Alright, so let's talk about the cameras on here, because I thought that was also the most, at least the second most important thing for me, besides the speed. The camera specs are really, really close, so they're almost identical. So you have a 50 megapixel standard on both, a 10 megapixel telephoto with 3 times optical zoom on both, 12 megapixel ultra wide. Both of these can shoot at 8K 24 and 30. Both have a 12 megapixel selfie cam that shoots in 4K 60. So it's not almost, it's exactly the same as far as the overall camera specs go, and they actually both can go up to the 100 times zoom. So let's see if we can spot any differences with the overall photos. So a lot of people may not notice this, but the S24 Plus does have a higher resolution than the S23 Plus. So typically the Plus models were getting the 1080p displays, but this has a 1440p display now. It's dynamic AMOLED LTPO, and then it is also HDR10 Plus, 120 Hz, 2600 nits peak brightness, and 513 for the PPI. On the S23, to my left, we do have the same display, but it's a 6.6 inch display, so it's a slightly smaller display. You can kind of tell a little bit. But it's a slightly smaller panel here. It is a dynamic AMOLED, 120 Hz, HDR10 Plus, 1750 nits peak brightness. So the max brightness on the S24 Plus is going to be a lot better. So if you're in direct sunlight at the beach or something like that, you'll really notice it kicking in. It's 1080p 393 for the PPI. So overall, you do have better display specs on the S24 Plus. As far as color and everything goes, they pretty much look the same color wise. They're both flat displays as well too. The bezels are actually a little bit thinner on the S24 Plus as well too. Let's see, the screen body to ratio is about 91.6% on the S24 Plus versus the 87.6% on the S23. So it's a little bit slimmer. It looks really good. So like I said, it's a decent display upgrade if you're like really into displays. I'm not mad at the display. We got high resolution LTPO. We also got a slimmer bezels here as well too. Let's check out the speakers. Again, S23 to the left. Yeah, so the first thing that stood out was that the S24 Plus is a little bit louder. Yeah, it's definitely a little bit louder. So I think the overall sound is a little bit better on the S24 Plus. Not necessarily that it has a different sound, really. It's just, this is just louder. Yeah, it's just slightly louder. So I think overall, it's not like crazy louder than the S23 Plus, but it is louder, so I do consider it, a slight update for sure. Fingerprint scanners have not been, changed here. They're excellent still. Ultrasonic, extremely fast. Face unlock, extremely fast on both. I do want to touch on the hardware and battery life here. So overall, the hardware you can see is not really that different here. For the most part here, they pretty much look the same. I would say that the S24 Plus feels a little bit smoother right here. You kind of have like a kind of sharp feeling right there. But besides that, they look the same. They feel the same. They're pretty comfortable to hold as well too, for the most part. So no issues with the hardware here. They're both IP68 dust and water resistant as well too. And yeah, so no issues with the overall hardware. So let's talk about battery life experience here. These are all day phones for battery life. So whether you get the S23 or the S24, it doesn't matter. But I haven't noticed a difference in battery life, even though the S24 Plus has a bigger battery at 4900 milliamps versus the 4700 milliamps. I just haven't really noticed a difference. And you still have the same charging speeds at 45 watts, and the same wireless and reverse wireless charging is on board here. So yeah, so be sure to let me know what you guys thought about the comparison, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.